Well, Tom, over the years, our area has provided many of the guys at the shop or in the pits for a variety of NASCAR teams. Former 96 High and Gardner Webb quarterback Stan Doolittle is one example as he works with Michael McDowell's Cup car as well as in the Xfinity and Truck Series. Doolittle's path to his current role is anything but typical, and it answers a question asked often by fans: how do you get to be one of those guys who works on a race team? It's pretty ironic to hear of Doolittle's racing foundation before he began spending his weekends working in the pits.
I maybe watched 5 laps of racing in my entire life before I got into it.
After college, he moved to Charlotte. A former coach opened a gym. He went to work there. He became friends with a crew member on a NASCAR team, and
he was like, hey, you seem like a pretty good athlete, play football, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to come check it out? And I was like, absolutely. And then maybe 2 months after he got me introduced up there, they hired me on. So it just kind of fell in my lap. But I'm extremely grateful.
And oh, how this job parallels what he did behind center all of those years. Sure, the helmet looks a little bit different, but whereas he once called audibles to wide receivers, now he's the man in the middle on the wall just before the car comes in, yelling out the signals prior to those intense seconds that occur several times during a race.
Jackman technically is a quarterback, just letting front carrier and rear carrier know where I'm going with the tire. Just letting them know, hey, if the 20's pinned behind us, I'm going to go to the front. If it's open behind us, I'm going to go to the rear. So it's kind of a heads up. Like I said, everybody kind of talks to everybody, letting them know what's going on. Just it's controlled chaos out here, so you got to communicate. There's nothing really you can compare to except 8 to 10 seconds of chaos where we pit, or 8 to 12 seconds really. You could consider that one football play. A lot of adrenaline, a lot of trying to control that adrenaline, control the nerves and chaos, and do your best in those situations.
And as you see, he has quite a team around him. He says it's all about the guys you're working with. But it's a really interesting analogy, being on a pit crew and playing football. And here's another comparison you can make between that and the game of the gridiron. You know how you hear about guys breaking down film in football? Look at the GoPro camera on the helmet of one of the crew members of Michael Edet's team. That's one of the teams based in Spartanburg. And that's because that's always rolling. They're recording what that camera is showing during pit stops. And on Monday, they have a film session. And every team in NASCAR does that. So Stan Doolittle and his crew and the 46 flying J car and that team, well, they did the same thing as all the teams do. They break down the tape and see how well they did during the pit stop in a race.
Pete, I have some church friends who are local football coaches. They've been telling me about websites that are seeking athletes to either fill pit crew jobs or train for them. And I've been reading that today's pit crew prototype can be compared to an NFL tight end, maybe an NBA small forward. They probably train in a state-of-the-art weight room.
Yeah, and as you heard Stan Doolittle say, he was working at a gym where a crew member was working out. If you walk through the pits, the guys working in the pits, looks like you're walking through a Gold's Gym, if you will. A bunch of muscle-bound guys, a lot of former athletes, and it's the perfect thing. And again, each pit stop is like a play. Maybe it wasn't always like that in terms of the physical conditioning, but there are a lot of guys in really good shape on a pit crew in NASCAR.
Well, back in Cotton Owens' day, I know my husband got to help out. Like the family would go and help out. So it's changed a lot.
I think he was in better shape back then.
Probably back then,
Now that I think about it.
Well, talk about a sport where every second counts.
Yeah, really is.
All right, Pete, thank you for that.